got it almost right on top of each other.
Ooh, that's someone's fantasy.
It's like I like that we're now doing morning shows.
Yeah, we're preparing for when we get a radio show.
We're kind of like Kathy Lee Gifford and Hoda.
Ooh.
Except they drink all the time. Or maybe Wendy Williams.
Wendy Williams is fun. I would love to be work on that show.
Well, I always liked her hot gossip for housewives in the Midwest. Because she always had gossip about hip hop artists that none of them would know at like a party. Like, so number one R&B seller from 1987 was at Mr. Chow this weekend, and apparently he got in a fight with Jermaine Dupri, and I'm pretty sure all these women don't know who all these
They're all
people
Googling
are.
Jermaine Dupri. That's so funny. I would love a morning show that we could just work from our house. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah. I wish we could do gossip like that. But it's like such a risky, because then we're like in trouble with our friends. But there's a lot of Twitter war going on right now.
There's a lot of Twitter beef going on right now. I just found it by accident. Last night, I was like on Twitter board, and then I was like, what is this? This looks like a fight.
You're like excavating. You're like, ooh.
You go like one tweet, back to the next tweet, it's like peeling an onion. You're like, ooh, I'm crying, but this is great.
Some of them are hard to follow because it'll be like somebody will quote, tweet, retweet, and then you go to that, and then you're like, well, where did this all start? And then you've got to do like a detective work. Sometimes it's not laid out to you in one long timeline.
Yes, I would love to be a detective on Twitter.
Oh, it's the best to find out where everything started.
Is originating from? Yes. That'd be amazing. So there's just a lot of fights on Twitter. I don't even know the person who they said died.
Oh, I think that was Kate Willett's boyfriend. He had a heroin overdose, I believe. Okay, this is all hearsay. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so, and then Gino and Aaron were on Compound Media saying that she killed her boyfriend.
Yeah, which I definitely don't think that's happening.
I also think they know she did not kill him. So, like, here's two sides of that. There's one side where, there's two sides where, like, I guess the one side is like, obviously that's an insane thing to say somebody did. It's kind of how people were saying Patton Oswalt killed his wife. And you're like, it's just hurtful, but I don't think anyone actually believes that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone actually believes either of them really killed their wives. Or, like, how she would have killed him.
I think
it's just a dick move, and it's something to just, like, stir the pot.
Yeah. I also feel like Kate Willett's not the kind of person that is... You know how, like, when people sign up for roast battles, you can do dark jokes like that, but they don't really know Kate. They're not friends. So when you joke like that, like, I feel like if you and I were in that situation and you did a joke like that, I would know that you were definitely joking.
Yes, but me and you have that type of relationship, whereas, like, I don't think Aaron is friends with her. I'm sure Gino's probably not friends with her. So it's coming at a mean place, I guess. You know what I mean? Whereas I know that they're joking. It's mean, but I know they're joking. And then somehow Chrissy and Samantha Ruddy got involved in it.
Chrissy Mayer.
People who were listening to this are like, we have no idea who these people are. It doesn't even matter.
We're like Wendy Williams.
I know, right. You don't even have to know. That's so true. You don't even have to know who they are. It's just the drama. Do you know what I mean? I love drama. You could talk about drama in the Mideast somewhere with a family, and I'd be into it. It doesn't even necessarily mean I have to know who the people are.
Well, you would like this. There was a girl on TikTok that I saw the other night, and she's like, you know what I do? I put in a town's name, and I find their Facebook group, and I join it. I don't even know that town, but she's like, you will see some of the best drama in town Facebook groups. She's like, I'm in a New Haven, Connecticut Facebook group. It is the best thing you'll ever see. That now I'm like, I'm going to start doing that because I love Facebook and Twitter threads where people are fighting back and forth.
I had that joke about following a custody battle on Facebook where it's like two different sides, and it's fascinating just watching two people that used to love each other, that created children, are now posting each other's garbage on Facebook.
It's wild.
Like one guy had like signs leading up to his house where he's just shit talking his ex-wife. It's like, what an amazing way to just fucking drag somebody.
The level of creative pettiness and all these Facebook things, that's the part that's, you can't write that, and no TV show could ever recreate that magic that people.
That's why people love reality TV. Even though it is somewhat written, there's still so much like pure awfulness that people just like. I started watching another show, and it's just not nearly as good as 90 Day Fiancé, and I lost interest. It's that other show, Married at First Sight.
Well, you know what I liked when you were like, that one comic had tweeted, and they're like, yeah, I did a show with one of those Compound Media guys, and they did a joke about Anne Frank, every racial stereotype, and told the audience that if they have a problem with it, he'll see him afterwards. And it's just funny when you're like, just name them. We all know.
Yeah, I'm like, that has to be Gino. And then, but the thing is, I just don't want to get involved in it. You know why? No. Because I've gotten involved in stuff like that, and your whole day is ruined. You're constantly checking back to see where the fight's at. You have to constantly zing somebody. It's just like your whole day is ruined.
Yeah. Well, I stepped in once. Remember when Katie Hannigan and Corinne Fisher decided to do a show where you couldn't talk about sex, and if you did on stage, it would ding? Well, that set, like, I don't know, a lot of female comics were like, how dare you tell us what we can't talk about? We're like, we're not. It's just the show. It's a show idea. You don't have to do the show. And we're not shaming anybody. It was just like an exercise for these two comics to do. And I stepped in and I was like, I was pro Corinne and Katie. I was like, this is like, it seems like a fun idea and a challenge. And I remember Ray Sani, who I'm friends with, and didn't take it personally, but she stepped in, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm just staying out. I'm going to just tend to my garden, my own little garden.
And now, like, by garden, you mean your pussy.
Yes.
I'm going to tend to my little pussy all day.
I go back and I start brushing it again.
And watering it, getting the weeds out. I didn't know this, but somebody told me, they said that Suba is getting dragged through the mud on Twitter.
Okay, so I saw that one. I was watching the debates. I even retweeted it, and then I went back because I was like, oh, this is a really viral tweet. So I looked at her follower count, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and see how many followers she gained from a tweet like this.
Well, let's tell people what the tweet is. She said, and this is a joke that I've seen several people make on Twitter, that when the fly landed on Pence's head, they said that's Pence's only black friend.
Yeah.
And so that's what the tweet is.
I didn't take it as racial like that. I just took it as a good joke.
So many people made the same joke.
I know, but I can see people perceiving it that way or the other side of it. But I still felt like it was funny and it was well done.
Well, what she was saying is Pence is racist and a fly is his only friend. Yeah. She was not saying black people are like flies.
Exactly.
But
you know what? It is. I can see one way of looking at it. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you know, like Forrest Gump is a fun movie about just like going through life and like just showing up and kind of like, it's like a Buddhist way. Or you can see it as a white privilege where it's just a guy that's mentally disabled failing up the whole entire time. So I was like, those are two ways of looking at the movie. And that's how I see the joke. Like, you can look at the joke.
Sure, you can look at the joke that way, but I know that's not the way it was intended. Like,
exactly.
I don't think I think if Suba thought black people were flies, she would keep that to herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't imagine that. And I get people being upset by it because, like, you don't know what people are going to get upset by. But the joke was about Pence being racist.
Yes. Yeah, and then I saw that she took it down, and then she said, I DM'd her. I was like, did you take your tweet down? She's like, yeah, as soon as I started, all the hate came in, I just deleted it. And I was like, oh, that sucks that you don't get to reap the benefit of having a viral tweet like that.
It's weird because, like, people already screenshot it, though. So at some point, you're like, you might as well just keep it up.
Well, that is true, because I went on to Facebook as well during the debates, and I had a friend who's nowhere near the comedy scene, any likeling. So a friend of hers, like a mom friend of her, screenshotted the tweet and put it up in the Facebook group. So normal people had already seen it, screenshotted it, and it's like a meme, like just traveling around the internet now. And I'm sure.
But, like, she's not even the only, unfortunately, like, or fortunately, she's not even the only person that thought of that joke.
Yeah, Christian Polanco had that bit as well.
So did Justin Herman. I think that's his last name.
Yeah. Was he a person of color?
No,
I don't know who Justin
he's a white
Herman
guy.
is. Oh, okay. It was just
he's
a white guy.
Dude. Yeah, Jewish guy. But I think that's his last name. So, like, I've seen that joke before. She's just the one that got railed for it.
Yeah. I'm like, come on, guys. You know that Subas that's not how she's thinking.
She's also brown.
Yeah.
It seems like brown people are losing privileges of doing race jokes also.
Yeah, and that sucks. If anyone should have the privilege of doing, racially sensitive jokes, it should be brown people. Which doesn't it sound weird to say brown people, but I guess we say white people.
Well, I'm just trying to encompass all, like, because Christian is, I think, Hispanic?
I think he's, Dominican.
Right, so, and she's not Hispanic. She's, I don't know, I'm going to mess this up, maybe Indian?
Yeah.
So that's why brown, like, encompasses all of those races.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to have to take this down.
What part? Oh, one.
Just all of it. At some point, you're like, I don't know what I can even say. We're just going to do a whole podcast where we talk about, I was going to say curtains, but then someone will turn that into a KKK reference. So I don't know. I think you can't talk about anything anymore. It's such a scary, weird place.
Oh, yeah. I had a comic reach out to me. I had a tweet where it was a guy in a wheelchair climbing up a rock wall with using just his arms, but he had his wheelchair connected to him, and somebody had tweeted, "What's your excuse?" And I retweeted that and said, "I don't have a wheelchair," and it did really well.
So funny.
And I had a comic DM me on Twitter and was like, "I really wanted to like this, but I couldn't publicly, but that funny joke or whatever." And I was like, I get it. But, like, also annoying that you're also now going to be taken down for publicly liking a tweet.
It's basically like whoever this comic was associated that with, like, being friends with Hitler. But they're like, I can't like this in public, but Hitler, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird how any of this stuff is just like, did I ever tell you, I forget if we talked about this on here, did I ever tell you that Ari tried pranking me by sending me an email from my ex from the stand?
No, that's awful.
Okay. So
was it funny? Did you like it?
No. It wasn't funny at all.
Okay,
so he sent me an email maybe 2-3 months ago, and he was like, he got into his email because he was at the stand and he left the room. My ex left the room. And he writes me a message where he's like, "Hey, this is stupid. We're meant to be. Let's work this out. I love you. I want to get back together." Like a whole thing like that. And I saw the email and I just like deleted it because I was like, whatever. Ari hours later goes, "Hey, did you check your email?" And I was acting dumb. I said, no, why? And he goes, oh, fuck. And then I was like, I guess he said, did he tell me he emailed me or something? And I go, yeah, jerk. I didn't even respond to that. But, like, if I did, how messed up is that? And I get that he is a prankster. And he was just like, oh, fuck it. Like, I guess he thought I was going to respond to it, but I just deleted it. So then 2 days ago, he sends me a message. He's like, hey, Amy from New York Comedy Club she went to write an email back to somebody, but she forwarded it to me by accident. He goes, the person was upset about the comedy show, and she wrote her something back that was really nice. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he told me what it said. It was worded nice. So and then he goes, hey, how come you don't pick the phone up? And I was like, oh, I'm out. I was at like Home Goods. He goes, how come you don't pick the phone up? I wanted to read you this email. I go, Ari, what is it going to say, that they hated me? I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, also, this is another prank of yours, and this is not even a good one. This is so bad, and I'm embarrassed for you. I was like, this is so embarrassing of a prank from you. And he's like, it's not a prank. So he goes, I just don't want to send you the message because it was private. So it's this whole long email, and they're like, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy the show. You know, if you let us know ahead of time, we can try to accommodate you and figure out what comics you would like. And I'm sorry that you don't like, I'm sure we could find somebody that you like better than Adrian. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. I can't even believe I'm going back and forth with you over this. And I said, if you were good at pranking, you would have told me there was a show back when we were on the road together, booked me a flight, and you wouldn't have even been there that weekend. That would have been the best prank.
Yeah. With Ari, sometimes I'm like, what's wrong with you?
I don't know, but at this point, I don't trust anything he says. So last night, he's like, hey, I'm at the Stress Factory this weekend. You want to open for me? And I said, nope, I'm not falling for it. He goes, I'm on the website. I'm like, I don't care. I still think you went through. I said, I just told you 2 days ago to do this prank, and now you're doing it. Why would I even fall for this? He's like, it's true. I'm at the Stress Factory. I'm like, he's like, I'm on the website. And I'm like, so I checked. He is on the website. I go, well, I'll ask Vinny Brand if you're doing the shows. If he gets back to me and says you are, then I will do them with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, ugh. He's like, whatever. I just need a comic. And I'm like, I have no idea if it's true or not. But I'm like, you're like Little Red Riding Hood. I don't believe you anymore.
Well, I'll confirm that he is at the Stress Factory this weekend. I know that part, but I know what you mean. But it's like he does. Okay, so like the Kobe Bryant, where you're like, what? I don't understand where that's funny, but whatever. To each his own.
I mean, he makes fun of everyone that dies, and it just happens to be that was like a really tragic death that, you know, he was going to get a lot of backlash. And then his daughter, unfortunately, was also in the helicopter, and he did not know that. But still, like, you know, that's just what he does. But it's so weird where you're like, Ari, you wrote me an email for my ex-fiance hoping that it would start drama. It's just like such a crazy thing to do. And I think because I didn't fall for it, he's just trying to get me another way. So yes, he might have shows this weekend, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't believe you. I was like, I just told you to do this prank 3 days ago. I'm not falling for it.
Well, like, not only that is sometimes you're like, he'll ask a question and I'll be like, what is wrong with you? Like one time, it was right after my wedding, and he goes, are you and your dad close? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, your father-daughter dance seemed pretty awkward. And I wanted to...
Why are you even watching us dance? That's the point where everyone's going to the bar. No one's watching that.
I know. And then I was like, I wanted to respond like, yeah, my dad molested me when I was younger, and we worked through it, but I'm surprised that you picked up on our vibes while we were on the dance floor. Like, that's crazy. I just don't know. Like,
with that.
I'm like, what kind of response did you think I was going to do? Like, yeah, my dad and I, we've had really, ups and downs in our relationship, but we were like, hey, let's put everything aside for this dance. Let's make sure.
Yeah, and like during the dance, you're just like, this reminds me a lot of my molestation, but I'm going to let it go for the sake of my wedding. What a he probably is on the spectrum. He is a little bit just where you're like, that's not right, Ari.
Yeah, that's not a joke.
Yeah, didn't you say he put like poop or something in someone's bag?
Yeah, he had talked on a podcast that he had put poop somewhere in our apartment or one of my purses, which I'm like, I think I would have found. Or he'll do something like keep a dirty tampon and then place it somewhere. Then I'm like, oh, one of his like, oh, you know what it is?
His ass tampons?
Like, his ass tampons. And then that's what it was. It wasn't poop. It was one of his ass tampons. And place it in one of our things where you're like, this could be, I'm going to, then if he does that, I'm calling the cops on him.
That'd be so funny if you got him arrested.
Be like this. That's how I prank. Like, Ari, it's funny. I called the
so
cops on you.
If you're in jail getting raped in your blood asshole.
Now you're going to have to go to court and I'm going to see you there and we're going to laugh and it's going to be so fucking funny.
Well, you know what I was thinking of doing? Saying that I was going to open for him and just not showing up.
I love that.
I know. Is it too far?
No, because he sent you that email under the guise that he was your ex, which is so fucked. Because, like, I don't know. That's just like playing with somebody's emotions or like trying. I don't know. It feels so mean. He's a mean girl. He's a mean middle school girl.
He's a mean middle school girl. I think I should tell him I'm going to do the shows and not show up.
I'm all for it. I'm pro that, and I'd love to hear what happens because he'll probably have to get Vinnie Brand to open for him.
I love it. I'm going to tell him I'm in. I'm going to say I'm in for the shows, and then I'm just not going to show up.
Oh, man. This is really exciting stuff here on Vadge.
I know, guys. You are hearing the beforce-the-scenes stuff. Yeah,
we'll do a follow-up of...
Well, if he writes to me again, if he doesn't write to me again, he might be on to it. Because he wrote me last night after, and I was sleeping. But if he does, I'll say, all right, Ari, I'm going to come, and then I'm just not going to show up. I'm going to be like, well, that's my email from your ex-girlfriend to you.
I think that's perfect. I like it. And it's like, what is he going to do? Ruin your career?
I don't care. Am I not going to get booked at the Stress Factory? I'm not getting booked there anyway. Also, if he tries to ruin my career, I'll be like, these are the two things Ari has done to me. I'll say, so you tell me if you think that's remotely fair.
Yeah. I don't know. But I am into you not showing up.
Don't tell Joe, because then he'll tell Ari.
I won't. I've been so good about secrets lately.
You're amazing. You've been so great. No one knows any of our secrets except you and Zuzu.
Yeah, and some of our Patreon members.
Ooh, that is true.
You guys got some really good, juicy gossip. Just look up Chrissy Mayer, Aaron Berg, Gina Bisconte, Kate Willett on Twitter, and you'll find the threads.
All of the juicy details.
Some of them are really funny, like Samantha Ruddy being like, as soon as comedy's back, and I'm like, it's kind of back, Samantha. It's like not gone.
Yeah, I mean, also, it's also weird to say, like, I'm not going to do a show with any of those people. So that means if I booked a show and I booked it with, like, you, Ari, Aaron Berg, she's not going to do it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's fine.
It's weird. It's weird to put that on a producer, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, where you're like, well, I'm not going to do it if so-and-so's on the show. And then you're like, I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. All of it just seems so, petty.
Yeah, I would just, like, I guess the worst thing that you can get from me is, like, I just won't acknowledge. Like, I'll just go and do my spot, and then I'll leave.
I mean, that's what we were all supposed to do. Just go do your spot and then leave. What are we hanging out for? There's no industry out now where you're like, oh, I'm going to get an HBO special. It's
I
like,
know.
No.
Here's the other thing, too. It's so funny. Like, okay, so when you're killing, you can't kill time in between spots now. Like, so if I have 2 shows in one night and they're several hours apart, I'm like, I can't do it because there's nowhere to hang out in between spots.
Yes, I got asked to do a show Sunday in Brooklyn. I already have a show booked at night. I think it's like 8 o'clock or 8:30. And then somebody asked me if I want to do another show in Brooklyn at like 2. And I'm like, I'm just not going to go back and forth. It's just like, it's not remotely close to me, Brooklyn, because I live in the Bronx. And what am I going to kill 6 hours? It's not like I could go sit in a Starbucks or something. You know what I mean?
No.
So like, what am I going to do for 6 hours? Just take a nap in my car? It's just like, it's just like not the time. Like, if this was before, I would just say, all right, I'll go do something or go hang out with someone. But like, it's just not the time to do that. You're right. You can't kill time.
Yeah. Well, and also Manhattan is just full of like, it's like The Walking Dead. A lot of new homeless. Like, I saw one guy he was wearing like fresh sheets, like a toga. And I was like, well, it's nice that you got fresh sheets. And then there's just people like sleeping all over the city. It definitely looks like homeless has picked up, or just like all like, because they're basically, most of the homeless in New York City are just people that have huge mental disabilities, or and so you're kind of walking around that, a lot of it, like around 14th Street.
Yeah. Do you think that there's more homeless people too? Because someone like just was home and was like, this is the time to do it, like to be homeless. Let me try it out. There's so many open spots where you could sleep.
I think so. Like storefronts, like this was really weird. I was trying to deposit a check at Chase Bank last night around Union Square.
Way to brag.
I know. It was the first check in months. And there was a guy that had set up shop inside, between the entrance, there's you enter and it's a little room, and then you go into the actual ATM place. Yeah. There's a lot of homeless always like to sit there, and I'm like, come on, man. It's not, this is unfair. You're catching me right when I'm getting 20s. Like, they don't ever give you singles when you come out of the ATM.
Gotta give them a 20.
I know. And you're like, I barely am making it. And then there was another guy.
So wait, did you have to step over that guy?
I did. And then when I got in there, I was like, oh, there was another guy in there. And then I looked down and he wasn't wearing shoes. And then he had a little kennel thing. And I was like, well, that's kind of unusual. And then it made me nervous a little bit. But then
I didn't have shoes on.
Yeah. Well, you're just like, when you see like little things like that, your brain is like, oh, something not bad is happening, but like this person's in distress. And so it makes you feel distressed a little bit. So but I still went. I was like, I'm going to keep going. I don't want them to feel bad, because obviously they're not doing well. And I want to feel, but then like there was no.
Do you think you think you could hurt their feelings? Somebody who's living on the street without shoes. You think you could really offend them? It's not Twitter, Sarah.
But I didn't want to act like I was scared.
I get that.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be funny if like they robbed you and you were just like, well, I should have ran when I wanted to. And I saw you without shoes on, but I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and here you are robbing me, so fuck you. And he's going to be like, yeah, lady, you should have ran.
I know. That's the thing sometimes when you're telling people, you're like, well, yeah, because sometimes you're like, I'm not scared of who they are. It's the body language and hanging out. Like one time I was coming out of a turnstile, and it was at night, and there's a guy just hanging on the turnstile, but not even looking towards the direction of the train. And I was like, what? Why are you hanging out like this? Like, can't you just like put your back against the wall and act like you're like looking at your phone or doing something else? But like the way he was positioned, I was like, it's such a suspicious body language that I was like, I had to like run up the stairs. And one time I took the train. This was pre-pandemic, and it was late at 59th Street, which is kind of like can be a weird area like at midnight because it's all businesses, so it's like randos late at night.
Isn't that where I drop you off all the time?
Yeah. And so I walked down the stairwell, and it's just a guy with his head leaning against the wall, going like this. And I got so nervous because I was like, what is that? And it was one of those entrances where it's only like one turnstile. It's not like several. So I'd have to like
shimmy by him.
So I had to like pretend that I like forgot something. And I had to be like this. Oh, shoot. I got to go back up. And then I went to the other entrance. But you're just like.
Do you think that guy was like, oh, that makes sense. She had to go back upstairs. She forgot something upstairs.
Like he gave a shit for my excuse.
It'd be so funny where he's just like, that makes sense. She definitely left something outside. I get that.
It's not because I have my
head. Because I'm pressing my
head
head against this fucking wall, looking like a weirdo. Yeah, I think he's probably like, that's cool.
I know, but it's just like some people are unaware of what their body language gives off, and there's times like, I'll be on the train sometimes and somebody's trying to get like something on the corner of their mouth and they're just like, you know, when you're just staring off into space on the train sometimes and they'll just be like this. And then you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
And he's like, I'm just getting my chops ready for when I eat your skull. You're like, well, I shouldn't have asked, but you had every right to say that.
I know.
It's so creepy.
Human behavior is so wild.
I think if I had to take the train every night back to the Bronx, I would definitely just stop doing stand-up.
Yeah. Well,
it would be so far for me, too, and also I would see so many weirdos going through Hunts Point. Hunts Point's, I guess, getting a little bit better now, but, like, Hunts Point used to be Trashville.
I know.
That's where, like, you would go to a chop shop.
You wouldn't let me go home. You drove me into the city, or at least to a better train station.
Yeah, I think, didn't I just drive you into Manhattan or something? Like the very top?
Just like the top part, just to boycott all that area.
It's just not great. And you know what it is? It's like most people are fine and totally cool, but it's just like it just takes one weirdo pressing his head up against the thing to just take like a knife out and stab you.
Yeah, and then when you're like, I was trying to be cool and understanding towards his needs. And then you explain it and they're like, lady, why would you walk into something like that? You're like, I don't know.
And then when you get murdered, it'll be your fault. No one is going to blame that guy. It'll be your fault and everyone will be mad at you. So, like, you can't win.
No. So just do what you want to do or what makes you feel better.
So I started watching Pen 15 and it is the best show.
Isn't it great? Like, don't you love it when they get into like spells? Because I felt like every girl went through either like thinking that they could cast spells or wish for things.
I like the one part. So for people that haven't watched it, the way you explained it to me, I was like, this sounds weird, but I gave it a try. These two 30-year-old women who are playing 13-year-olds in this series that takes place in like 2000.
Yeah.
And just like the crazy stuff that real like teenage girls do go through, because all of that stuff that's been that happens in the show, I'm like, I can relate to that.
All of it. And they, you know, what's I like about is like everyone else is that age. They're all middle schoolers, but then it's two 30-year-old girls playing 13-year-olds.
And those girls are lucky because they're very, very tiny and thin, so they don't have like big, huge tits or a big ass and thighs. So they do have bodies of like 13-year-olds. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah. Did you watch the one where they're in the dressing room with their moms?
I don't know if I see.
Are you Are you on
the
season
first
one?
Season.
You're on first season. Okay.
But I do like what I relate to so much is when that one girl is on the internet and she starts talking to that guy, Miami something, and she's like 2 or 3 messages in. She goes, I'm so into this guy. And it just made me laugh so hard because you remember being a kid and just like having these crushes where it was like everything. It was your whole world.
Intense.
It made me laugh so hard when she said that, when they're on AOL and then they're freaking out because she's like, he wrote to me, and then the girl says to the guy something and she's like, does he know where I live? Because like as a kid you had no idea how any of that worked.
No.
It's so crazy. You're like, does he know where I live? Is he going to come get me? And they're like, no. It's such a funny show.
Going on, there's a thing pre-AOL called Yak, I think, and it
I don't remember that.
It was one of the first chat rooms, I felt like, and I remember going on there and just like randomly talking to people, and you just assumed. I started talking to this one guy, and I must have been in middle school. I think I must have been in middle school, and he gave me his number, and I called it up, and I asked for him, and then I could hear everybody laugh in the background, and I was like, oh. They were just fucking with me.
I remember meeting people on those like AOL chat rooms. One time I was talking to this guy. It was such a weird... I don't remember all the specifics of it, but he was like a tiny guy who was just like serving affidavits like on people. He was a process server. And then like he came to the Bronx one day because we had been talking for so long. And then like I went with him to go serve one of them. And then that was it. Like I don't think I even talked to him ever again. But like what a weird time in your life. Do you know where you're just meeting people off the internet, know nothing about them?
So innocent. I mean, it was like you were just thrown into the internet, and then there you go, start talking to like randos.
It's like just being thrown into Grand Central Station where you're like, what's going on around me? That's kind of what the internet's like, just like chaos.
And then just kind of talking. I remember one time I was also into really dirty, dark jokes, and I was like, thought I was in a good repertoire with everybody on the chat room, and I go, what's the worst part about eating a bald pussy? And I said, putting the diaper back on. I got so much hate.
That is so funny. That is hilarious.
I know. I thought it was one of my favorite jokes then, and I was like, everybody would like this. This is a great joke. So I put it online. It was the first time I ever got internet backlash.
That's so funny. What did everyone say?
I think one was like, child molestation's not really funny. And I'm like, I know, clearly.
You're like, I don't know. I'm foreseeing the future, and I'm going to have this friend that's going to think this is hilarious.
I will find my own chat group one of these days.
I will find my people. That is so funny, because obviously you didn't make that joke up yourself. You heard someone else say it.
Yeah, I'm like in middle school. Like I would write a sweet. I mean, that joke's pretty funny.
It's so funny looking back on stuff. Like, I might have talked about this already, but I remember my dad. I slept over this girl's house who I wasn't really even good friends with. It was like my mom's friend, and I guess her mom was gay, and my dad didn't want me to sleep there. I don't know if he thought I was gonna wake up to them scissoring over my head, but like I didn't remember. I didn't understand it as a kid why he didn't want me to sleep there. I don't know what he thought was gonna happen, and they let me sleep there. Nothing happened, obviously, and then years later, I was like, "Oh, he didn't want me to sleep there because they were gay."
Yeah,
but it's like such a crazy thing as a kid. You have no idea.
Yeah, it's only like when you're older and you put it together.
Yeah, you know what else I thought was really funny in that show? Just like the candidness of kids and teenagers. Like that one kid who calls her what is it called? Uggis is like ugliest girl in school.
Yeah,
and she like loses it and goes back at him, and then he's like, "I was just kidding," and then he's like, "You want me to finger you?" Like what a weird thing. Like people just ask. He's like, "You want me to finger you?" And she's like, "Okay." And then, like, she brings the other girl with her. And then he's like, well, I'll just get to second base with both of you. And you just see him going like this to both of them, which is, like, kind of how all that stuff happens.
Yeah, when it first starts out. And it's, like, it's how hilarious that she's like, can I bring my best friend? And
yeah.
Isn't that casting so good? Like, that kid is, like, the perfect kind of kid that would be that hot bad guy in middle school.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because when she writes to the hot guy that she has a crush on and he finds out it's her on Instagram, he instantly leaves the chat. He just signs off. It's so mean, but like also what kids do. It like I think if we're making such a push for it, but everyone should watch that show.
Oh, it's perfect. Well, I think that's like the first time I've seen a show that portrayed what it was, how I felt like being a girl in middle school or high school around that young age of like, we're just as weird and gross as guys are. And sometimes, if not, like, it's funnier because
no one expects it.
Yeah, it isn't. Like, one of the parts I liked, or I thought was relatable, is them stopping by a friend's house. Or they're walking in the neighborhood and they come across a garage where they know people that are hanging out in the garage. And then they end up, like, huffing paint. And it was just like, I remember several times of just going to our house. And then the next thing I was like, I had no idea I'm about to be doing drugs today for the very first time.
Yeah, you have no, or you're just out and then, I'm surprised they haven't done a spin the bottle episode because that's like a big thing back in the day. Like, you would just be out, and then everyone's like, hey, let's go over to this person's house. And then you're playing that game. And like you said, you're just, like, getting felt up. Like, you were just out going for a walk. And then that stuff happens, and you're like, this took a weird turn.
Yeah, you're just, like, signing up for sexual assault. You're like, yeah, we'll play this game that I don't know. And then also you're like, it was clear that none of the guys wanted to mess around with me.
As a kid?
Yeah. Like, it wasn't like, when the bottles spin, you're all like, oh, all of a sudden the rules changed again. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah. What I thought was a really funny episode, too, is, like, when she finally, like, figures out masturbating. And she's just, like, licking the poster of some guy, like, fingering herself. It's just, like, such a funny thing that, like, girls also do. It just, and then the mom comes in there after she's been, like, doing it all day. And she's like, what's that smell in here? She's like, I think she was like, oh, I was farting a lot. And she's like, it doesn't smell like that. And then she goes, well, I had sweet potatoes or something. It's just, like, the same things that girls would do. It's so funny.
They could be like, okay, great. My daughter's just been farting in her room all day. Like, what a funny cover up.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Good stuff.
There were so many.
We didn't get to any of the questions.
Oh, no. Do we have any time for one?
We have one. We probably have one time or a moment for one question.
All right, let's do it.
Well, one of them is from Matt G. asking, what's our skincare routine?
I don't have a very good skincare routine. I just use Cetaphil to wash my face, and I also use it to kind of take my makeup off. And then when that doesn't work, I just kind of scrub my eyes.
Yeah.
With this grapefruit type of thing where it's like kind of exfoliates your face, and I probably shouldn't be using it on my eyes, but
yeah, I never know. I also feel like skincare routines always add so many elements to it where I'm like, oh, we're doing this now?
Well, I also don't know if he's asking us because he thinks our skin looks good or bad. Like, I don't know if he's like, I'm going to stay away from whatever that is, or he's like, no, I like it. It looks really good.
I think you have nice skin.
It's okay. It's weird. I feel like sometimes I break out now worse with, like, pimples sometimes than I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, I had that. I thought I had great skin in high school, and then in my early 20s, I had it all along my cheeks. Just like cystic acne. And you're like, what? This is bullshit.
We're going through puberty now.
I know. It is weird. I do. Now I wash my face with like a Cetaphil CeraVe. And then now we're told to do hyaluronic acid and vitamin C serum.
What?
So I do that, and I don't know what that does. And then there's a new thing I've started called slugging, where you put Vaseline all over your face before you go to bed.
That seems like that is not something you should do.
Everyone says online that it's safe and it's really good for hydrating your skin. It keeps the water in, and do it at night. So I've been doing it.
I would think that it would just make me break out.
They said that's a misconception. It doesn't clog your pores. I've been doing it for a week or so, and I haven't felt like I've been breaking out.
I mean, your skin does look flawless, so I'm going to ask you to tell me it again.
It's beauty mode on Zoom in the settings. That's my skincare routine. Filters.
I don't think that's true. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for having really nice skin.
Well, we don't drink and we don't eat you know, we try to stay away from all that stuff or smoke cigarettes all the time.
Hey, yeah, if you don't drink and you don't smoke, your skin will stay better. 'Cause the other way, you're just constantly squinting from the smoke.
Like this. I probably already have like those
that's
lines
why I think
that you get from smoking.
It's probably much healthier to just do heroin. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not squinting from all the smoke. You're just like sleeping,
and you're
which
sleeping.
I think is a natural resting. Makes your face look very pampered. You're like your career is you're homeless and your career is doing terrible now, but you look amazing and you're like, it's heroin.
And well rested from all the
I'm
nodding
sleeping
out
so
that
much.
you're doing.
I'm sleeping so much now. And it's great for my skin. I look like a teenager. I'm going to go on 10-15.
Well, that was fun.
It was fun. I'm going to ask Sarah to text me that skincare routine because I want to try it.
Okay. I'll give you the
And then guys, all of you
steps.
can DM me and I'll give you all of the info of what you just told me.
Yeah, we'll put it up online and you guys can see if that's something that you want to partake in.
Do you hear the garbage truck outside?
Yeah.
You do. The garbage truck is so loud. I remember when my sister was a kid, it would come late at night, like 12, 1 o'clock, and she would just wake up and scream from it. Such a weird thing to be scared of.
Well, it's like I don't know. I had one that would idle out my window on Crescent Street in Astoria, and it would be there for an hour just getting breakfast sandwiches at the bodega.
Yeah, it's annoying.
It was so frustrating.
All right. Well, I know you have to go.
All right, guys. Vadge podcast at Gmail. Somebody left us a weird review, and I didn't like it. It gave us a lot of stars, but then they were like, no one gives a shit about your YouTube videos, and stop talking about your dogs, and you guys repeat stories all the time. And I'm like, whoa.
It's like this guy really knows us.
I know.
I'm never going to stop talking about Zuzu. Even when she dies, I'm going to bring her up.
Exactly. And then also, I'm like, I don't know. When you do so many shows, what are we in our 5th year?
Yeah, and also, like, we're almost dead.
Yeah.
So we're just reliving the greatest moments of our lives. Also, that person could just stop listening.
That's true. So, but, I mean, he gave us 5 stars, but the review, I was like, wow, that really hurt. Thanks.
That must be Ari.
Maybe I don't know. We got to think of something, but I definitely like your new plan.
Yeah. If he writes to me, I'm going to say, sure, I'll open for you, and then just never show up.
Okay. I love it. Finally. Taking back the night.
I feel like he'll be pretty mad, which is the sign of a good prank.
Yes. And he should appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll say you were the inspiration.
You just got Ari'd. That's the show.
All
where
right.
you just cause like emotional abuse to people.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing is he'll just have to do more time. But there has to be somebody there that'll do stand-up. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
All right.
All right.
Bye,
I'll see you guys.